So in Nephi, First Nephi chapter 18, the Lehi's family, they're on a ship and they're going towards the promised land. And starting in verse 9, it says, "And after we had been driven forth before the wind for the space of many days, behold, my brethren and the sons of Ishmael, and also their wives, began to make themselves merry, insomuch that they began to dance and to sing and to speak with much rudeness, yea, even that they did forget by what power they had been brought thither. Yea, they were lifted up unto exceeding rudeness. And I, Nephi, began to fear exceedingly, lest the Lord should be angry with us and smite us because of our iniquity, though we should be swallowed up in the depths of the sea. Wherefore I, Nephi, began to speak to them with much soberness. But behold, they were angry with me, saying, We will not that our younger brother shall be a ruler over us." So here, to be honest, I can empathize with Laman and Lemuel. I don't know if you've ever been on a ship, but when I've been on a ship, it's kind of boring. And it's kind of boring to be on the ship. There's not much to look at other than the ocean. And I could easily see how people would try to entertain themselves with singing and dancing, making yourself merry. And Nephi comes off as a bit of a prude or a buzzkill, or I don't know, maybe a little bit too uptight, a little bit too judgmental. But Laman and Lemuel, although I can empathize with them a little bit, their reaction ends up being way out of proportion. Like, I could see there being like a family squabble. Like in verse 10, that makes sense, where they're angry and they say, "We don't want our younger brother to rule over us." But then what they do is they tie him up for 4 days. Then Laman and Lemuel, they take me and bind me with cords and they treat me with much harshness. And then there's a big storm. Nephi goes to lengths to point out how Lehi and how Laman and Lemuel end up threatening Lehi and Sariah, and how that ends up hurting them in their old age, and causes them lots of grief. How his wife and children are pleading with them to please let him go. Anyways, their reaction is way out of proportion. And I feel like part of that is their anger and their hatred, that this is Laman and Lemuel have this pride, this thought that they need to be the ones in charge. And it causes them to react out of proportion, whereas what might just be a family squabble, well, I think you should be more sober and less sarcastic, well, I think I'm fine, I think you're a little bit too uptight. I think that little squabble balloons because Laman and Lemuel are so angry and have pushed back so much against Nephi's preaching that they want to exterminate the preaching. And I feel like you get that in a more extreme form later on in the Book of Mormon with the people of the Order of Nahor in Amalickiah, where when Alma and Amulek start preaching, they take all of the people and all the believers and they burn them to death and commit kind of religious genocide. And I think it's because they've convinced themselves, they told themselves that everything that comes from this point of view is evil and is the enemy, and so they react way out of proportion to what would be appropriate, or what would even be appropriate, even if they're in the wrong. Like, even though Nephi could have probably handled this situation better, Laman and Lemuel get rid of any excuse they have for squabbling with how extreme they react.